a lot of beat makers are making beats in an antisocial environment, which, hey, that's what I do. But going to clubs, going to live shows, even getting involved in live shows. The whole reason I started DJing was because I was making beats and I wanted to be on stage with the rappers that were using my beats. These environments are helpful places. What's going down? It's DJ Payne 1. I'm here with Erinn Knight and Dame Ritter. Everyone's back and in full effect. Not fully the Erinn effect, only she can do that, but this is the MEC podcast. We appreciate you tuning in. How's everyone feeling today?
I'm feeling good. It's been a productive week thus far. Making good progress on BeatStars records. Been talking to a lot of artists. Actually, this past week has been a lot of really dope conversations with the women, producers, artists. So I think the women will be very well represented when we get things moving. But yeah, I'm feeling good. What's up with you?
There's a lot of comments in the chats in the comment section about BeatStars records and Dame being involved in a record label. Mostly good. Mostly people wanting more information, trying to get signed. And then some people that want you to know, Dame, that they don't need you.
Yeah. Well, it's right now it's just been artists that I've, just kind of combing through social media, existing relationships, just having conversations because I don't even know exactly how we're going to position the label. So I'm looking for a lot of good feedback or ideas and suggestions because I tell them like, hey, I don't have this all figured out, but if you have an idea, pitch it to us. If we're able to do it, I'll say yeah. If not, maybe it's something we'll have to delay or something that we can't do. So I'm looking for people to pitch me some really dope ideas too. But hopefully we can start putting out music by the end of next month. So that's the plan.
That's dope. Congrats on that. I thought you were going to be like, we're in the preliminary phases. We'll start like Q2 of next year. That's dope.
Nah, because we're just going to be starting like putting out singles with various artists, right? So we're not making any long-term commitments to artists out the gate. Just going to kind of test the waters. And I have a few other ideas that I'm not going to share on the podcast just yet. But yeah, we're initially just going to start putting out singles. So we should be able to start fairly quickly. Some people are sending me songs that they've already made. And some people are open to working from scratch with some of our top tier BeatStars publishing members. So it ranges, but different genres. Had a good conversation with R&B Radar yesterday. So trying to connect with some platforms that are already doing their thing, already have relationships with artists. So, it's going good so far.
That's dope. Congrats.
Thank you. So I know the first topic that we're going to jump into, it's been the hot topic on social media. This AI artist, FN Meka, is it? Is that how you pronounce? Is it FN Meka or it's like FN Meka? Or do we? I mean, I know we probably don't care, but it looks like it got signed and released already because of the backlash. But can one of you guys set the table for what it was or is?
I think Erinn and I might still not be totally sure what it is or what it was. I wonder if AI generated the name FN Meka.
Yeah, so we're not sure. So
what does FN stand for?
So FN Meka was signed to Capitol Records, right? So Capitol Records had a partnership with their coining as an artificial intelligence artist, but we're not sure which part is AI driven because there was an artist that posted a video yesterday that said that he was part of making the lyrics and they kind of stole some lyrics from him and they kind of ghosted him. So I'm not sure if it's more of a marketing ploy or what piece is artificial intelligence when it comes. I thought it was some of the lyrics that they generated. So I'm not exactly sure myself.
I mean, that's what the articles were saying. But as we know, all of these music publications don't often get it right. And especially when the company is setting the narrative. We've been talking a lot about the crypto world mostly how it's being presented. And the folks behind a lot of these companies and innovations, whether real or so-called innovations, they're marketing this stuff as though it's so novel, but the hype is so big, it really overshadows the reality. So in this case, I wouldn't be surprised if they hyped up the AI part, even though the AI part hadn't even been implemented yet. I don't know. My biggest question at this point is, why did they just try to recreate 6ix9ine?
I feel like they tried to recreate the rapper that they stole this from. If you look at him, the tattoos are even placed the same.
As 6ix9ine?
No, as the guy who what's his name that you sent to us? I'm trying to find his page right now. It looks just like him. He has locks the same. He has the placement of his face tattoos.
Kyle the Hooligan, who I heard of before. I know who
Kyle the Hooligan. He had like a somewhat viral song back in 2019. He's kind of like just like a different wave of rapper, a little bit more like, I wouldn't even say rock rap. He just has a different type of flow. But yeah, it looks like they tried to steal him, but then they tried to take the shock value of 6ix9ine, because I don't watch any of this stuff. But in one of the clips where he was like going into a jail cell, he was trying to be funny, and there was a picture of 6ix9ine. So they're definitely trying to play off of 6ix9ine for sure. Like, not a picture, there was an animated version of 6ix9ine in the video. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to fix my computer really quick, but yeah, it definitely seems like it's the case. I was trying to find the article in which they said, like, I want to know which piece of this is still powered by artificial intelligence. But for people that don't know, they signed to Capitol Records, and then there was a huge backlash because the FN Meka uses the N-word, and there were some other like ridiculous images, and I guess he quickly got dropped, and because they act like, oh, we didn't know that this was going to be sensitive to the Black community. I'm like, this is ridiculous, because how at this point, with everything that we've been through and how long the internet's existed, like, it's impossible not to predict these things unless you just have complete idiots running these companies, which is possible. So he quickly got dropped, and now FN Meka is labelless. So if anybody would like to sign him, you can probably sign him.
Is he not still signed to the people who created him? Like, that's a label partnership too, right? That the dude who feels soulless to me, I don't know. It's interesting because I'm trying to find all of these articles that we were reading, but everybody's taking their articles down because they look like idiots. And I'm glad, like, Hot New Hip Hop only has the article where they mention that he makes fun of police brutality. They don't have that viral article that everybody was sharing and liking. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't even find the same articles anymore.
But the article was essentially saying, because of the success rate is so low in terms of A&Ring and grooming artists to be successful artists in the more traditional way, because the success rate is so low, they've had to turn to artificial intelligence, so they monitor what lyrics are working, what sounds are working, and things like that. And that's why, they've had to turn to artificial intelligence. How do you guys feel about that justification?
They've had to. How sad, right? I mean, those poor A&Rs. And then here you are, Dame, trying to do this whole BeatStars Records thing. You're not using AI. You're living in the past. How can you possibly find talent by looking at, numbers and social media and all of these other incredible resources out there that showcase an artist's viability? You got to use AI. There's no other way. You can't use your ears. You can't use your A&Ring talents. Come on, Dame. That's ridiculous.
So just to play, not even really devil's advocate, because it's not the same, but like you will hear like writers that have wrote like big hits talk about a formula, right? Like they'll talk about a formula for a song in terms of like intros, bridges, things like that. What's the difference behind that's the difference between knowing a formula and just putting it in a computer, and letting the computer, it's both like pretty formulaic, right? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, this plays into the narrative that all music is soulless and formulaic. Music's always been formulaic in the sense that you play a chord progression and it resolves itself in a very specific way. If you get out of that formula, and it's governed by mathematics, if you get out of that formula, either you need to know how to do it to make it sound right, or suddenly you create something that's chaotic and potentially ugly to the ears. So I think this notion that a formula is a awful soulless thing is just another false narrative. I think it's something that's perpetuated by a lot of people who don't know shit about music, because you hear people saying that all the time. New music is so formulaic, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you listen to their music and they're still making music in standard 4/4 time. That's a formula. That's formulaic. You know what I mean?
Also, movies are written in, there's only, 7 movie plots ever in the history of the world. Basketball, formulaic. Baseball, formulaic. It's like you have to get the mechanics of something down for it to work. Occasionally, there's an offshoot that doesn't work, but even LeBron James talks about his formula and then how he has had to change it as he's gotten older. So anybody who says that has probably never done anything consistently well, because all things require a formula, including cooking, breathing, living, everything.
okay, so another devil's advocate, and this one I don't know the response to, and I think I've brought it up before. So what's the difference? I mean, outside of the N-word usage, let's just say FN Meka was like a dope artist and he wasn't racist or anything like that. There were no problematic lyrics. It was just, what you heard was dope. What's the difference between FN Meka and like Alvin and the Chipmunks releasing an album, or Roger Rabbit releasing an album, or if the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles rapped?
I don't think there's a difference in that. I think the difference is the popularity. Alvin and the Chipmunk is for children. Adults aren't listening to that. It's not going to get much bigger than the subculture of children's movies. Same with Ninja Turtles or anything like that. So I think in its place, AI technology, especially when it comes to creating because like they use AI at Disney World for Mickey, or is it Mickey? Yeah, Mickey. You know what I'm saying? Like his voice playing is just like they type in what he's supposed to say and AI produces. So that's like, it's been around. I don't think anybody, to be honest, is very upset about AI. I think it's the irresponsibility of the use. That's what it feels like to me. It feels anti-art in a way. Now, I'm not opposed to Web3 artists, and it's not my style. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not my style, but I'm not opposed to them. There's a couple, I know several, even Kyle the Hooligan has a whole tape with another AI artist. That's like Web3 artists. That's a whole different world. You know what I'm saying? I'm not completely opposed to it. It's not my style. But when record labels shift their entire business model over to the easy route of just creating AI instead of getting better at their job, that to me sounds ridiculous. Like that to me says, we haven't evolved with the times, so we're going to force everybody now to respond to what our easy route out is. And that's what I feel like it is. I feel like it's always been this way. That's why I feel like FN Meka is like, I hadn't even looked at any of the articles. I didn't know he was getting backlash. When you sent it to me, I was like, this is the equivalent of Web3 blackface. This shit is ridiculous. So for me, that's my issue with him. My issue with the music business, putting an overemphasis on this being the future. My frustration is that artists have never been valued, and the first people to be devalued in this situation will be Black artists. Do you know what I'm saying? And the first people to be commodified. Like, there's so I went last night I did research because I know a few AI. I went down a list. There's a ton of AI. He's the biggest and he came the fastest. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a couple of like J-pop groups and K-pop groups that are AI that are huge overseas. But as far as America and as far as influence across all platforms, in my opinion, I could be wrong. Maybe it's just because I'm American and in America, I've never seen anything come so fast and be so loud. So for me, again, it just feels as a Black woman that we are consistently being made fun of and made like we are used for profit and nobody values what we're doing. So Alvin and the Chickmunks to me doesn't seem like it's the same road with this. I think, again, AI has been used for years, even before we were calling it AI. But this isn't even real AI. That's the problem. He's not, they're in his bio, he says robot rapper. And let me not say he, it says robot rapper. Do you know what I'm saying? So it says AI powered in some of these articles that I'm looking at. And the company is called what is it called? Factory New. It says it's the first kind of a next generation music company specializing in virtual beings. So I think, like you said, AI is not yet. It's just a virtual being that's going to eventually go to AI. But I don't think this is the same thing. This thing had lyrics written by a human being who was caricatured and is now this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's the same thing.
No, I mean, I definitely would agree with that. I wish I could have found like a fan of FN Meka and brought him on the podcast because I just want to understand, like, because I'm sure, I mean, it has 10 million followers. I'm sure like there are some people in that are actual fans of this thing. So I just want to understand that connection and like how it started. I'm curious.
My marketing coordinator is very interested in it and like following all the articles, but it's because he thinks it's like the new wave and he wants to be up on what's going on and paying attention to it. So I think a lot of people, again, it's like 6ix9ine. It's more of shock value than actual fandom. And then again, like 6ix9ine, when you look at his actual fan base, it's mostly impressionable children.
Wow. But I think this also like bleeds into the conversation because if they're saying, hey, it's a 1% success rate, like there was also a conversation about like just the talent level of artists these days versus, decades of the past. Would you guys agree that on average, like the talent is lower these days? Would you agree with that or disagree with that?
That's, to me, that sounds like all the people who say like R&B is dead or nobody's making real music anymore. It's like when you sit in an office in Times Square and you're completely unaware of what's going on, you say ignorant things like that because, again, I say this all the time. I can throw a rock and hit 10 talented rappers in Atlanta. So talent doesn't matter anymore. It really has to do with marketing, development, understanding your product market fit. I think this is more indicative that the labels have terrible business and don't know what they're actually doing. They've just been throwing money at problems for years. It's not the talent pool. That's ridiculous.
I actually, when it comes to R&B, like I would actually agree. I mean, I think that there are talented artists today for sure. But when you think about like how artists were groomed, like in decades prior, nobody's going through that unless you do it yourself, because the labels aren't doing it. The labels don't have the time to develop, give you coaching, give you vocal coaches, give you performance coaches and things like that. So a lot of the artists today are not going through that. They're not going through what Chris Brown went through. They're not going through like what Boyz II Men went through. Like,
but just because they're not going through that doesn't mean that there's not that talent pool. Like all I listen to is R&B.
So they're talented, but they're not going through the same process. They're not going through the same attention to detail. So I believe on average, like you're going to get some very raw talent today, but unless you go through kind of like to learn that showmanship, to learn, you know, the vocal training, I think on average, like there's a lot of R&B artists today, they can write songs, melodies and things like that, but they don't have the voices. They don't have the voices of,
how often do you listen
on
to
average, you're gonna send me a few artists that can sing. I'm like, okay, but what I'm telling you is like you had to be able to sing at a certain point. You know, you had that. There wasn't, you couldn't not perform live. Even before Omarion, Omarion only gets a pass because he could dance his ass off.
Omarion is not even in my top 50 R&B. I'm not even talking about.
He shouldn't be. Like, he shouldn't be.
That's not even in the standard. Dame, I think you're mistaken. I'm telling you, R&B is in and I'm like, R&B is in such a good place. Like for real. Like that's a totally separate conversation. For sure. You're saying talent. I'm saying there's crazy, like there are people who can sing and perform their ass off in R&B right now. Because
you're totally changing. You're changing the argument. You're changing the argument. I'm saying on average, if you take the top artists today, right? Like if you take, let's just say the top 25, right? And then you take the top 25 of 1990 or 1990s. The top 1990s are going to have a better show, and they're going to, on average, I'm not going to say you're not going to be able to pull out a Lucky Day or somebody else. On average, they're going to have a better show, and they're going to be able to sing better. And that's only because the process was different to get where they were.
That wasn't the original thing that you said, though. And
I said on average, the talent was better. Yes. That's the same thing.
No, you said top 25. I disagree. Like, if that changes the metric. If you said
top 50, top 100, whatever you want, whatever.
I'm saying labels are lazy. Top 50, sure, not great. But I'm saying out in the world, there's way better talent than what the labels are exploiting right now. I agree with that with rap too. I think top 100 rap is okay. I think there's way better underground rappers. There's way better people that I'm listening to. So if that's the metric, again, I'm putting it back on labels. I think that there's way more talent in the R&B world now than there was in the 90s because of exposure. There's more people who have the opportunity to get good. So if you're talking about top 100, I don't care. Every time the label is going to make what they make as the decision. So sure, Bobby Brown and them, they spent years, months developing them. They sounded good. But if you're talking about the talent pool, which is overall, I think the talent pool is way bigger for R&B right now. If you're talking about the most famous,
so again, you keep using words that change. Of course, it's bigger. There's more people making music today. That's not what I'm talking about. You keep changing the art. You keep changing what
I'm not changing it. Dang, you said the talent pool was better.
No,
you said that. Okay, tell me what you're saying.
I'm saying that the artists that were out in the 90s and even the early 2000s, on average, they're going to have better voices and better shows than the artists today that are out touring and doing their thing.
Signed label artists.
Well, I don't. So who are you talking? Like who?
That's I don't even want to know because there's ambiguity around what you're saying. You're saying on average the talent was better. What talent? Let's define that because I still disagree with you.
To me, I'm comparing the top artists of today versus the top art. If you're talking about some underground like that nobody knows, like I don't know what you're talking about. But are you going to compare these artists to Boys to Men?
Okay, so top artists of 90s versus top artists now. I'm gonna say your opinion sounds kind of old, to be honest, but yes, I still disagree with you. Like I feel like if we look at, because you're looking at a whole era, and I think you're probably comparing it to what you're hearing right now. But if you're saying top artists from the 90s and top artists of now, what does now include? Because I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. You're saying 2000s? Are you saying 2010s? Like, does Chris Brown get included in this or no?
Chris Brown is like the end of like that grooming process.
Okay.
Of,
I see.
of
I see
becoming a star.
So you're saying,
right? The labels don't have the time, energy, or interest to put them through that process. So there's going to be less artists because they're going to have to independently surround them around people that can talk, like teach them how to put on a show, teach them how to build their voice, things like that. That's all. So I'm not saying that there's not talented artists that you're listening to that you found. I listen to a lot of talented artists, but I'm just saying there's a lot of artists that can't sing. They might be able to put good melodies and great songs out. That doesn't stop them from putting out a great song, but they never would have made it in the 90s because they couldn't actually sing. Or maybe they would have been like the third member or fourth member of Drew Hill or something.
I think, again, what my whole point was at the beginning is it's on labels. Labels throw money at problems and then they don't actually solve them, right? But I feel like you've moved the goalpost because the original statement was that the talent pool is not great. There's less talented artists. That was the statement that you made.
I'm saying of the artists that we hear today, whether it's the radio or the biggest artists that are streaming, I'm saying artists of the past, if you put on a show and go song for song, like there's going to be a difference. Because, and I'm not blaming them and I'm not saying that they're not talented. All I'm just saying is they didn't go through the same process. That's all. I'm not saying that there's not talented artists that you're finding on Spotify. I'm talking to a lot. I would be a hypocrite because I'm talking to a lot of great R&B talent for the BeatStars Records label. But they're not. It's just a different process.
I think the reason that I feel like now, if we come bigger, it's an unfair assessment is because I never feel like, at least in the 21st century, I don't feel like labels have ever really determined talent. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like if you go through the label process and it's rigorous enough, anybody will come out good. If it's done right, I think if it's done right, do you know what I'm saying? Anybody will come out good or polished.
Well, then that messes up the 1% success rate that labels used to have because it was still low.
Is that they're just throwing money. They don't know what to do. They're not doing it right. But I don't know. I don't know if I agree. I can't fully agree because I feel like the landscape of the industry has changed. If you're looking at the sounds on the radio, like R&B is still on the same chart as hip hop. Like the top chart. Do you know what I'm saying? Like once it gets into the bottom or the other charts, but R&B and hip hop are still in the same chart. So to me, it's like also a lot of R&B on the radio has a lot of hip hop elements. It's not even really a clear delineation. So that's what I'm saying. Like if we're talking about like actual R&B, then I'm not even looking at the charts because they're not putting out what they were putting out in the 90s. There's not the crooners and there's not a lot of that being put out by the labels. So I think that it's almost unfair to make the comparison because they're not doing the same thing even.
I'm not saying it's fair or unfair. I'm saying it's just like when Beyonce's documentary comes out, or maybe she already has a documentary, and you watch how she's groomed, like to be who she is today from, 6 years old, like that's a different process than what most artists are doing today. Payne, feel free to weigh in because I provide another perspective.
No, I think the process is different. I'll just listen to Candy Rain.
I mean, they were perfecting their little moves and stuff. Like they would. It was a show. Like it was a different. Like it's just a different era. My bad, Payne.
I love '90s R&B. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, I've never actually sat down and considered whether or not R&B was dead, but it feels
it's not dead. No, it's not dead.
Well, that's the extreme. I'm just when it comes to debates, I'm gonna kind of look at the extreme sides of the spectrum, and everything's changed. I think all music is damn near unrecognizable from its origins back in, like, especially if we compare New Jack Swing to, like, I don't know, what are we considering R&B today? Bryson Tiller, like
Summer Walker, Lucky Day. I mean, there's a lot of I would even say
still very R&B-esque.
Yeah,
there's some people who like what's his name that has all the weird Illuminati conspiracies? Who had what OT Genesis? OT Genesis is the rapper. Who am I talking about?
He's like,
YK Osiris. YK Osiris. YK Osiris, R&B.
If you consider him R&B, then that's what I'm saying. It makes it. I'm not saying he's not R&B, but I just feel like that's again, I'm not trying to harp on this. I'm not trying
to harp on that either.
The original statement was talent. I'm going off of overall talent pool, not the bullshit that the labels are putting out. And that's no disrespect to any R&B artist that's signed to a label, but I feel like the labels are looking to microwave stuff. So in a way, I agree with you, Dame. Like, if we're talking about labels, if we're talking about 90s labels versus now labels, of course the music talent pool is not as good, but overall talent pool, which is what I thought you were saying at first, I completely disagree with.
Money Long is dope though. So you can say.
Yeah, I got a whole list of artists right here that I've been reaching out to and talking to, and a lot of them are R&B artists. So I'm not saying that there's no talent. And I'm not saying, and I would say that in terms of the number of art, like I wouldn't be able to have this list in 1990. It wouldn't be possible because, the cost to do music is a lot lower. Like I think we're in a great environment in terms of like access and to be able to the opportunity to sing. I just don't think that many artists are surrounding them. And maybe we put it on, older people not reaching back or new artists not reaching up. I don't know. I've never signed an R&B artist, but I just know that in terms of what I like, in terms of voices, people that really develop their voices, I know that the focus is not even really on that because like you can do whatever you want to your voice in the mixing process, right? Like I can be a dope singer today and I can't even sing. That just would, and I guess maybe that's my point. Like that just wouldn't be possible in the 90s. Like that, I would never have even thought of putting out a song. I still don't think of putting out a song, but somebody can make me sound good. So somebody can make me sound good today.
If Michael Bivins didn't touch it, you don't want any part of it. Well, okay. So, and here's a point that I think is important. It's not the argument we're having right now, but I think it's an important point to talk about mentorship and intergenerational mentorship when it comes to music, because hip hop was the same way. And it didn't matter. That's actually, I would say, a principle of hip hop culture. We don't talk about hip hop culture anymore. We talk about culture. And culture nowadays, when we say the culture, capital T, capital C, what are we talking about? We're talking about whatever urban news is coming up. We're talking about drug culture. We're talking about fashion. We're talking about all of this stuff that had really nothing to do with the core principles of hip hop. And I'm not saying that it's the same as what happened with R&B, but I feel like a lot of those traditions, the whole intergenerational connection, was just always something incredibly important in all of this. That was just like a common thread. And so it was just kind of a given. It didn't matter what you did. If you were breaking, if you were writing graffiti, if you were a DJ, if you were rapping, if you were managing, if you were singing, whatever, you came up, you had some raw talent, but you came up through a network of people who had more experience than you. And that was just kind of a rite of passage. Nowadays, that part has been completely eliminated because anyone can just wake up one morning and record music, which I think on the one hand avoids a lot of gatekeeping and makes things more accessible, especially if you live in an area where there isn't that kind of intergenerational system of mentorship, but it also severs that connection. And I feel like when you and Erinn are talking, I think that's kind of an element that's not being mentioned, because I think, Dame, you're really pushing this whole idea of, the label system, but the label system was made up of actual people like Bobby Brown, and all these R&B artists came up under similar circumstances, and it was a very small world at that time in the industry. You would see that the names, like Heavy D was doing arranging on Soul for Real's first album. There was just so much going on, so much of an exchange, and so much of a familial feel. Everybody's just kind of doing their own thing now. And I think there is something lost in it, and I think there's something gained in it. I don't know if it's net positive.
Yeah. I don't want to leave Erinn. I think Erin's upset with me. Erinn needs to send me. Erinn needs to send me.
When you started, you said it was one thing, and then it was a whole nother argument. I'm not going to disagree with you that what labels put out back then and put out now is even remotely close. I'm not disagreeing. I just heard talent pool, and I just don't agree with that. But I'm not upset.
But I still want. We're gonna have to continue this after this podcast, because I still don't know. You said you heard talent pool. Like I don't know. I don't even think I said pool. I said on average, the artists that we hear today are less skilled and talented than, and I'm not talking about the people that you have on your personal Spotify list. I'm talking about.
But you didn't make that statement. You said the talent on average today is not as good as it was in the 90s. To me, that's a general sweeping thing. That's like a generalization.
But I believe that there's a reason for that. Like, I'm not putting them down, but there's a reason for that. Right? Like it's just, they're not going through the same process. That's all. And not only that, like their interests, because of the way the industry has kind of combined R&B and hip hop, R&B kind of gets lost. Like R&B and rap has kind of dominated, and that's become like the coolest thing to do. And again, this is just my personal opinion. I feel like, and it may be what people want today, right? But like even the writing has gotten lazier and with less imagination. The way that guys are talking to women, it's more hip hop in R&B than it used to be.
On the labels.
On the label. You need to send me these amazing artists so I can add them to my list here, because I got a bunch of amazing artists that I've talked to. Savannah Christina, shout out to Savannah Christina. Felicia Ross, she's super dope. Who else? Elmeen from the UK, super dope. I got a long list here of really dope like voices. But even they aren't, like, they're doing it on their own. Like they're struggling. They don't have like a good team. They're not going to like voice training in the morning, performance training in the afternoon, PR training in the evening. Like artists used to be groomed like that. So Wanye from Boys to Men.
I'm not disagreeing with that part. It's the talent part that I'm disagreeing with. But I agree, the label system is not the same. I think labels are extremely lazy. I think social media has made labels want to go more direct to consumers, so they don't really care about developing the live show. They're like, we can just throw up a clip and a beautiful scenery and that's it. And then we do this thing, and then this guy gets taken a picture of with this celebrity, and now we're in there. So I agree that the label process is different. I do also agree that part of the developmental process is different, but also for me, I think a huge part of the developmental process of R&B singers is the church. That still hasn't changed. There are still R&B singers being funneled through the church and funneled through that process, the writing process, the singing in front of people, being able to perform well, because Black church is still not fucking with people who can't knock it down on a Sunday morning. So I know plenty of people like Ray Louise, her parents used to sing behind Aretha Franklin. She does the vocal training. She's a vocal teacher. And then she also has dancers, whatever. Completely unknown, makes no real money from her R&B. One of the greatest performers I've ever seen live, vocally and also dance-wise. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's people out there, and I'm not going to run down a list because I'm not trying to disprove you. I agree. The labels are lazy, but the talent pool is not worse. That's just my only point.
So just send these artists to me so I could reach out to them, because I'm trying to, create some really dope quality music. And show people that I definitely don't agree that R&B is dead. I don't think you can kill R&B. Like, that's crazy. But anyway, speaking of a live show, the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I was at a live show this past weekend, and I was, like usual, the headliner goes on way later than he's supposed to. So I'm sitting here watching these openers, and these openers are terrible. So I wanted you guys to give people advice on opener etiquette. Can you guys please talk to these openers that get an opportunity to open for a bigger artist? So it's a great opportunity. There's a lot of fans there. I think they forget that they're not their fans. So do you guys have some suggestions if an artist listening to this podcast today has an opportunity in the coming weeks? How should they be preparing? How should they be approaching this opportunity to maximize the potential of it and to get the most out of it?
I would definitely say make your set interactive and actually plan for it. Don't just go up there and be like, yeah, at this point, because I've worked with many artists who were complete amateurs when it came to jumping on stage. And I remember, and it's not my place to tell them what's right or what's wrong. I prefer to just let people make their own mistakes. That's how they learn and grow. I remember there was one artist in particular, and I didn't personally think he was great, but he had this show, and it was a big event, but he was an opener. And he was running through the set list, and he would just have these little moments. He goes, okay, and then at this point, the crowd's going to be going crazy, so we're going to jump into this. And then at this point, while they're clapping, I swear to you. And when it happened, when the performance happened, it was a disaster. He actually, I believe he got his mic snatched from an audience member. Like, someone just reached up and snatched his mic because the headliner, it was a packed house. And the headliner was a huge artist at the time. So they just wanted to see the headliner. And I'm just observing the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, you really can't just assume things are going to go well. You really have to plan. And even if you plan, that doesn't guarantee anything. So I would say just really know who the audience is you're performing for and adapt. Create moments of interaction, create these special moments in your set list. Plan for that stuff. Plan for it, because you're not good at improvising this stuff yet. And it's not just going to happen for you by chance. So what we used to do to avoid, because, we made those mistakes early on when I was in groups. It was like, man, fuck this audience. They don't like us. Fuck them. And it's like, that's the wrong attitude to have. So once we matured out of that attitude, we started considering, okay, what's a song that, has an opportunity for interaction. All right, at this point, we're going to teach them this chant. We're going to ask them this question. We're going to incorporate that into the next song. We're going to give away a shirt at this moment. So we just we built in all of these interactive moments throughout the set. And people aren't going to like me for saying this, those 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 minute songs, cut that shit in half or a third, please. People don't want to hear a song for 5 minutes, and I don't care how amazing the song is. You know what? If the song is amazing and it's a full 5 minutes and the crowd wants the full 5 minutes, give them the 2.5. they'll want it more, and then sell it to them or give them a Spotify link or give them a QR code to get it. You lose nothing by cutting your set short. You can lose a lot, including the crowd's attention, if it's too long. So that's my 2 cents.
Go to the gym. Rappers who are out of breath on stage tell me that they do not care about me. It is singers who are out of breath, whatever, go to the gym. You should be running and doing your entire set. If you can't run and do your entire set, you should not be touching the stage. That's one thing that I got from one of my R&B homies. He runs and does his entire set. And if he can't stay running and doing his entire set, not breaking, then he's like, I'm not ready for this show. Y'all don't care no more, really and truly. And I'm saying, y'all, this is independent artists, because I don't even go to live shows anymore nearly because it's so frustrating. It's like, what am I here for? And then people are like, yo, E, did you check out my set? Like, yeah, it was trash. Run. 1. 2, like Payne said, cut your songs down and don't be too prideful. Can you mix in a song that people already know? Can you take a beat and that people already know, rap your song over it, and then go back into the hook of the song that they know? Can you get on stage and say, yo, I'm da-da-da-da. I'm about to do this song, but I need your help right here. I need you to say da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Wait till they respond. People respond to leadership. Most rappers don't know how to be leaders. I've never gotten on a stage where I wasn't able to win because I can lead people. That takes a type of confidence, but a type of humility. You're in the service-based industry. Serve the crowd. If you can't serve people, you're not going to win. That's what it is. And they don't care about you already. They're here for the headliner. Make them want you. If you have 10 minutes, maybe don't perform 11 and a half minutes. Maybe perform 8 and a half minutes and get off the stage and be like, bro, if you're really messing with that, I actually have my own show next week. You know what I'm saying? Like, most of the time, people who get these opening slots, it's obvious that they've never done their own show. And it's really frustrating too, because it's like Eminem says, you only get one shot. Don't miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. Yeah, you may be able to open for a few more people, but the first time I see somebody perform bad, somebody may ask me about them 3 or 4 years later. I'll be like, yeah, they're a terrible performer. They'd be like, oh, really? Like, yeah, at least when I saw them, like, I'm not giving you a second opportunity to waste my time. That's what it feels like. It feels like a waste of time. I'll go to the bar, whatever. I'm not going to disrespect you or boo you, but care. I think most people look at it as an opportunity. They don't look at it as an opportunity. They look at it as validation. It's just
what the sad part is, though, really, though, is that promoters are pairing people whose experience level is at 0 with an opening act whose experience level is at 80. And they're only doing that likely because they think either they're just not experienced enough to know how to promote properly, so they're just stacking the bill and figuring, the more opening acts, the more people come. False. Or they're thinking, well, I'm just going to charge all these people. And then it's like, what's the point of you even being a promoter if you're not confident that the headliner can bring in that money based on your talent as a promoter?
Or they have a budget. For an opener, but they know that they can get a homie or somebody who's desperate to do it for free, so they're going to keep that budget.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like
all stupid.
I think promoters are doing terrible jobs. I'll say that. I think promoters are absolutely lazy. But if you're an artist and you get this opportunity and you don't shine, I'm not saying perfection, but you should practice it. You're saying you want to do this for a living, you should look like a professional. You should act like a professional. You should pretend that Quincy Jones, DJ Khaled, Drake, whoever you think is, you should pretend that they're in the crowd. Would you do this if they were in the crowd? Would you be on stage like, oh, fuck it, let's go to the next track? Like, what? Would you want to see you? That's my question. If you were performing for you, would you like this? Most people don't even ask that type of question. So I don't know. I think more people need to be more professional when they open up and see it as a really opportunity and act like this is your job. Treat it as such.
Yeah, I think that's all great advice. I don't think people have to worry about the 5 minute songs anymore. I don't know if people are still making like five
Oh,
minute
they are.
songs,
Yes,
but
they are.
in terms of keeping your set short, you want to be a professional. So you have to show up on time. If they give you 10 minutes, make sure that it's no longer than you are off the stage. And that because I remember one time there was a cat that opened up for us and was like jumping around, like doing water all over the place. So we had to like clean the floor before the headliners go on. It's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? But so when I was there the other night, there was somebody performing. They had the whole track playing, right? They had the whole track playing, and they didn't know the words. So like there was like significant gaps where just the track was playing. And I was like, yo, like, is this even your song? Like, is this even like, do you don't, it appears that you don't know the words to this song because it's playing and you can't even sing along. You can't even rap along with it. Like, I wasn't even sure that it was, that it was his song, but they were just too cool. They were too cool. Like the fans were already theirs. Up there, got the shades on, just kind of, walking around. The showmanship was terrible. And it was just bad. And I don't think anybody left wanting to go see like who that artist was. Like there was no Instagram follows, nobody Shazammed this shit, like nothing. It was terrible. So I think they just squandered the opportunity because it was a packed house. There was probably like 1,000 people in the room, and you totally missed the opportunity. And I think rehearsing, getting in shape, but nothing prepares us. If you're a novice, like I don't think anything prepares them for like that adrenaline rush that you're probably going to have. So even if you're in shape, that's why I think it's so important to get as many reps in as possible. Like every time you get the opportunity to perform in front of people, you have to develop a certain level of comfort, because in the beginning there might be an adrenaline rush. And even if you're in shape, you're still not going to have your breath right, because you'll be excited, jumping around. It's not like a normal thing for just an average person to do, just perform in front of a big audience. So as many opportunities as you can, take them to polish your show, get comfortable up there, because you also never know what's going to happen when you're performing too. Like your mic might go out, somebody might throw something. Like, how do you deal with those moments? And you won't develop the ability to deal with those moments unless you actually go through them, and have like control over just have control over what you're doing. Because if your adrenaline's rushing and you're just kind of like spazzing out at times, like it's going to be all bad.
Adrenaline will make you say and do some pretty stupid shit on stage too. I watched a friend of mine go on stage. He was like, "Yeah, all right, we're about to perform. We hope y'all like this, and if you don't, fuck you." And I was just like, you just shot yourself in the foot before you even started." And it was just because it was the adrenaline, it was the environment, there were all these factors. I'm just like, you can't. But I think we've all seen that happen, where there's some kind of backlash against the audience. It's like the kid in school. You shouldn't do this, but it's like the kid in school that people just keep throwing shit at because they know at a certain point he's just going to snap, because they want to see him snap. The audience is either there to have an amazing time, but if they're not having an amazing time and they see that there's an opportunity to just create some kind of chaos, they're going to go with it. They're going to create that chaos. So you can't have weak resolve. I know we're running out of time. I want to mention something specifically for beat makers. Also, I think, a lot of beat makers are making beats in an antisocial environment, which, hey, that's what I do. But going to clubs, going to live shows, even getting involved in live shows. The whole reason I started DJing was because I was making beats and I wanted to be on stage with the rappers that were using my beats. Going there, if you want to make better beats, these environments are helpful places, because you're seeing, what the crowd's responding to. You're seeing it in real time. You're seeing, and this helps you become a better producer and a better member of a group. because you can contribute this to the group. You know, like what kind of energy do certain crowds respond to, especially physically? You know, when you're in the club, what are most women dancing to? What are most men responding to? What are most younger people responding to? You start looking at the demographics of who responds to a certain kind of drum pattern. And, you know, there's research on rhythms that psychologically naturally appeal to people. And, you know, that again, oh my God, we're being too formulaic, but, you know, don't you want to learn this stuff? So I would encourage that. And I'm also speaking to myself too, just getting out there and really observing. Like if I DJ and there's a song where everyone's just dancing, I just gotta kind of make a little mental note and be like, damn, all right, I need to figure out why this beat is so infectious and why everyone's losing their mind over it when it comes on in the club. And then, you know, I study it, and you know, I'm gonna admit that, yeah, like if something's working, I want to understand why it's working, and yeah, I'm gonna steal some of those elements and try to adapt what I'm making if it's the right kind of energy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it's something. You know, recording artists do the same thing. Go to shows and see what works. All the information that we're talking about, we observed first. We didn't just make this up and we're like, oh, this should probably work. Interact with the crowd. This should work. No, it comes from us seeing a lot of effective performances. So observe what effective performances are and reverse engineer them. This guy that we saw did this and it worked. This woman did this and it was highly effective. How can I do that but make it my own, so it doesn't seem disingenuous or forced?
But make sure you're comparing like apples to apples, right? Like there's things the headliner can do that the openers can't, right? And I agree that it should be interactive to a certain extent, but these cats were up there making hella requests of the crowd before they even won them over. Like you can come out there, you can do your little hands up one time, but like once you're on the 6 hands up and you ain't rocking, and then you want the phones up and all the lights to turn on, it's like, yo, like this crowd is definitely going to be turned off because you did not win them over because the songs were terrible because you're rapping over the actual track and forgetting the words. Like you can't make hella requests at that point. Like you
gotta be good. But there are so many cheap tricks to win a crowd over too. If you have the talent, there are a million cheap tricks. And I shouldn't have to point these out, but like depending on if you're on a college campus, understand what the sports rivalries are. If you're in a city, understand what their pro teams are. Just like really cheap ways to
like
win
when you
somebody
go to
over.
Ohio, you go O-H, and then they go I-O.
Yeah, just learn the landscape know who your audience is. You're like Dame said, or one of you, I forget who said it. Someone said you're up there as a service provider. So the service, my bad, Erinn. If you're up there to provide a service, provide that service. You're not there to go up there and have everyone just shower you with praise and attention. That's where people get it wrong. They look at other people because, you know, successful performers make it look effortless and they make it look like they just float onto the stage, receive praise and get off. That's how it's supposed to look, but that's not what it actually is.
But those things that you're talking about, they're only life vests for a little bit. Like if you don't have no song, if you don't have no songs, like because there was actually one artist that like performed like all popular songs. It was like a fake cover band for a second. Not this past time. There was somebody that opened up for us one time. I was like, you didn't even rap any of your own songs. Like you just got up there and was like a fake Drake.
I've seen people. Someone did this at it when I used to.
I was like, what was that?
Judge a lot of showcases in person. I remember this dude went up and was like, "Yo, check this out! I got this new song called Drippin'," and it was a Kid Ink song. And I'm sitting there looking at him like, why did you think you could get away with perform? And he didn't. He just got the instrumental. But I'm like, did you really think? My entire feedback sheet just said this is a Kid Ink song. I'm not dignifying you wasting my time like this with anything more than the harsh reality, which is you tried to play us. And, you know, I think on a live show, it's like, okay, cool, you're doing rap karaoke, which is still pretty stupid, but I don't know. People are weird out there. We got to wrap this up, though. I know we got things to do. So once again, appreciate you tuning in to the MEC podcast. Join the Excellence Academy, BeatStars Records, more information coming soon. And then every Tuesday, I'm live on beatstars.live at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Submit your loops at beatstars.world. And then also, if you want to get an alert, I'll personally text you every time we go live. I still don't know the number. Dame does, though.
Text MEC to 844-206-7800. You'll get an alert of when Pain goes live and some upcoming changes to the MEC.
A lot of changes coming, and it's all gonna be good. So appreciate you tuning in. We will catch you on the next podcast next week. Peace.
Peace.